pintu, buka pintu. Ada anjing gonggong betai. Buka pintu.
Hello, Baba and Nyonya. We have this wonderful guest, or very old friend of mine, and with no introduction, all of you in the community will know Peter Lee, and in his beautiful home. And then May Ling is our legal advisor in GC, and May Ling will be talking about the coming
Baba Nyonya Literary Festival.
Okay, first we have Peter to tell us what is your plan in 2024. What you can announce and what you can't announce is a secret. Please let us know.
I will be busy this year with an exhibition at the Peranakan Museum. I think it's slated for October, and it will be mostly focusing on this wonderful donation of 100 batiks given by 3 sisters from the Hendramatono family of Pekalongan. And what is so special about this is that their mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother were all batik makers, each with their own style. So we want to trace this amazing story. I think there will be announcements coming from the museum, but I'm the busybody involved.
You're the expert.
One of
Scholar
the people
and
involved.
curator.
One of the people involved.
Yeah. And then what else? That's in October. And anything between now and October?
I have been working on certain research projects, but one is already done. It's for the Bloomsbury Encyclopedia of World Fashion, and they invited me to submit a chapter on fashion in Southeast Asia, and I've presented a kind of fun angle about how we have been mixing up the way we've been dressing for centuries. So in a way, Peranakan starts off as a launch pad into looking really at how hybrid everything else is.
Yeah.
And I found my work in learning about Peranakan history has brought me to the conclusion that actually we are not that special. In the sense that actually everybody in Southeast Asia has been drawing influences from everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that we should really celebrate, the complete rojakness of life here. And that's been ongoing. It's not something to be embarrassed about. I think we should really be proud of it.
And the fashion point, I know I'm interested in fashion, that what you are going to contribute in this project is a fashion in Peranakan traditional or modern fashion you are going to...
Yeah, I've been working on that for a while, right? So initially my ideas were focused on how dress and identity is very closely related. So I assumed when I started this Sarong Kebaya project, which I did at this exhibition in 2011, I believe, I thought it would help me celebrate Peranakan identity. But the more I got into it, the more I realized it wasn't really Peranakan. It was all part of a shared heritage with elements drawn from everywhere, actually. And that, to me, rather than being disappointing, was something I found even more exciting.
I think so, because we were talking, I was talking to ambassador of Venezuela, she said the spice that we are using, they are using the same spice. So,
I mean, things travel all over. I mean, so much of our cooking and the way we dress, they come from other places, right?
Yeah.
Peanuts and pineapples come from the New World.
Yeah.
The lace comes from Portugal. The word renda in Malay is the Portuguese word. So we've been absorbing foreign influences for such a long time. And I just find that particularly exciting.
Yeah, and talking about rojak that you were talking about, is it just the food, the fashion, or
everything? You just scratch the surface
habit
of our
as well?
local culture. and you'll see that everything is rojak.
And that's why it actually attract other country to actually like the culture when they are here. They show a great interest to because I think they feel is similar in a certain way is similar.
Yeah, I think the Peranakans have mastered the art of celebrating difference and diversity. But I think there's been a trend to kind of fix everything, like a lot of do's and don'ts. If you do it this way, that's pure Peranakan. If you do it another way, you're not.
Yes.
So there's a habit to try and differentiate, but the reality, I think, for me, is that there was no standard. Actually, even within our communities, from house to house, people had different habits.
I agree.
The way popia was made was never consistent. I think we should loosen up and firstly accept that there's no fixed way, that it is a spectrum of influences, and that everybody else is rojak. I mean, we don't hold the monopoly on it.
I
of it.
totally agree that we shouldn't to say this is not a Peranakan, that is not Peranakan way of doing it. I don't think so, right? We should. That's why you say
Yeah.
relax and more open.
I think
about
there's always been a spectrum.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a fixed identity. Right?
Yes.
I think what we should realize that in Southeast Asia, we had so many migrant communities. There's never been a dominant cultural elite, especially in the port cities. There've been communities just doing their own thing, and nobody could oversee it because nobody understood completely what everything should be. So, as a result, we had so much more freedom how we would integrate things, borrow things, adapt.
Yes.
It's really fascinating. So Peranakans did a lot of this adaptations.
Yes.
And sometimes you just make do. You would improvise
Yes.
things that you don't have. So, for example, if you couldn't get an embroidered tokwi or altar cloth, you make a batik version. So there's a lot of that improvisation and substituting, other things. And it's not just our community; everybody kind of did it.
I think that's a way to be, to go forward, not to be so.
Not everything is binary.
Yeah.
And I think, when Singapore was founded, you had people coming from everywhere and from other old port cities where things had been rojak for a long time. So they brought that old rojak style to Singapore. So we have this very long legacy of living with things all mixed up.
Yeah.
And I just worry now that people try and talk about cultural purity, that this is Indian, this is Malay, this is Chinese, when actually for several hundred years we just mix things up randomly. I'm not saying life was perfect in the past, but I think there was so much in terms of exchange between communities that it's impossible to say this is yours, this is mine, don't appropriate.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I have one very important question.
Yes.
What do you think we are doing as TPAS Peranakan Association Singapore? Do you want to advise us what should we do? What I did not do enough during my term? Do you think that I should improve in certain area? You are the expert, and I have to ask you.
I mean, honestly, I think we shouldn't set up rules. I believe that in order for a culture to really thrive and survive, we need to break down the rules. I do that by showing historically how people didn't really follow rules. Actually, Peranakans were great rule breakers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
And I think we've got into a bad habit of thinking of culture in terms of preservation and keeping things unchanging. I mean, we see that in very old societies like Japan, but we have been chameleon-like in this region for the longest time. and why should we be ashamed of this, right? So I don't feel there's any set rule that should be put in place. So therefore, I don't think there's any way the association should be run. Everybody adds their own flavor to it. I think the main issue is about feeling that you own the culture. If you own the culture, then if it's yours, if the house is yours, you can renovate it as you choose. You can add an extension. If it's not yours, then you feel you can't move around, and that's how you kill a culture, if you ask me, right? Because you fix everything. How do you make it relevant for the next generation? The only way to do it is if that generation feels they own it. But they won't own it if you give them a whole list of things you can do and can't do. So we have to loosen up. I would say that the most important thing is to recognize the continuity. But we are chameleons. We have many faces. I think in the region we can be more English or more colonial. We could be more local. We could be more Malay. We could be more whatever. We could be more Chinese. We are shapeshifters, and we shouldn't be ashamed of it. And it's not something dishonest because we really can interact across many facets. So I think that should be seen as an advantage, and we should celebrate that. So going back to your question, I think you should do whatever you want. And be proud of it.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. But I wouldn't know I have to ask. And I'm more a straightforward person. I'd rather ask and see how the community feel or what we should do more or, things like that.
Well,
So-
I feel the fact that you were voted in was already a great sort of momentous step because you're the first lady president
And that's a
of
big
association.
pressure.
But
It's a pressure.
I felt proud of our community that we were not afraid or we were not biased to not vote you in. So,
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you. And now, May Ling, tell us what you're going to say.
Thank you, Peter and Genevieve. Hi everyone. I'm May Ling, Legal Advisor of TPAS and a member of the General Committee. I'm thrilled to announce that the third edition of the Baba Nyonya Literary Festival will be held on the 27th and 28th of July this year at the Pod in the National Library building on Victoria Street. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the National Library Board for its generous sponsorship of the venue once more. I'm heartened to share that stalwarts of the festival, including Josephine Chia, Walter Woon, Shawn, Seah, and Christopher Tan will be back. New faces include Tan Siok Sun, who will discuss her book about her father-in-law, Dr Goh Keng Swee, Gilbert Cheah, who will discuss the book about his ancestor, Chew Boon Lay, Jon Lim, who will discuss Peranakan architecture, and Arthur Lim, who will share everything he knows about Tok Panjang from his book titled Tok Panjang. We also look forward to welcoming writers who are based in Malaysia and the US, including Uncle Henry Chan and his daughter Melissa, who discuss their book, which chronicles the lives of their illustrious forebears in Malacca, and the illustrator, Pretty Naya, who will share with us the fun she had in putting the book together. No Baba Nyonya Literary Festival would be complete without a gathering of cookbook writers. So you can expect them to turn up in full force at the upcoming festival. Tickets will go on sale sometime in early June this year, so do keep your eyes peeled for details on our social media platforms. Thank you, and we look forward to hosting you at the festival.
Thank you, May Ling. I hope they can absorb what you were saying.
I'm still impressed. How did you remember all this information?
Well, we
I
come
was just telling them I consider myself lucky I'm not an actor.
Really? For real?
No.
I can't do what you do.
Thank you.
Thank
That's high
you,
praise coming from
everyone.
Peter.
Thank you. And it's Chinese New Year month. Let's say Happy
Happy New Year,
everyone. Bye.